Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew along the top of the front of the bag. And the reason why I'm sewing the top of the front of the bag which will be this part here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this would allow you to have a finished look. And once you sew up the sides, you will not be able to go back and sew the top of the front of the bag. And that's what gives it its finished look. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew across the top. I always start with a stitch and then a back stitch to lock it in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew my label on. I moved to a different sewing machine, the walking foot. I really don't need it for this type of work, so I'm going to go ahead and sew the label on. When we was making the pattern, one of the things that I did was at the fold where the front of the bag is going to be, I cut out these notches. And so what we're going to do is we're going to trace out those notches. Now this is something you do not have to do. It would just only give it a different shape down here at the bottom. Right now it just comes straight down. When you cut the notches out, it sort of give it like a slant. So you don't have to cut those out, but I am going to go ahead and cut it out. Now that I have them cut out, okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to glue the front of the bag to the back of the bag. I'll get a pencil, I'll fold it, and then I will put a mark right here. I'll put my second mark on this side. And then what I will do, I will glue, and this is contact cement glue, from this point down to this point, from this point to this point. Now the glue is only to hold the bag in place until I sew it. The purpose is not to try to hold it permanent, only until I can sew it. Now what I would do is just fold the bag, and I always try to make sure that the front and back are lined up evenly. I'll use these clamps to keep it in place while I'm working with the leather. You notice I can pull the leather back apart and put it back together again. I always try to make sure that the bottom are lined up first. Now this is what your bag would look like. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to let it dry for a couple of minutes, and then I'll take it over to the sewing machine, turn it face down. I'll sew from this point, sew all the way around, and I will end at this point. What we're going to do now is we're going to sew the bag. We will start here and just sew it all the way around. And the reason why I sew from the top side rather than the bottom side is because your best looking stitch is on the top side. So let's get started. Now one of the things I always do, I always sew maybe about 6 or 7 stitches. I stop, turn the bag over to make sure that I'm getting a good stitch from the back side. I always pull the thread tight, and then I will burn it, burn the edges. This is your bag. The only thing we have left to do now is to put the hardware on, and this bag will be finished.